You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. We will be going live shortly. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Down the right field, stumbling start for Stewart. That's close to deep left field by Alvarez. He's homered in 4 straight games for the second time in he's homered in 4.
Come on, Mets fans, it's your boy CP. Welcome to the True Mets Talk post-game live stream. As always, if you're here in the live chat, drop your thoughts and opinions. I'm sure everyone has a lot of thoughts and opinions. I'm going to make this live stream event session. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a conversation, because what we just witnessed today, plain and simple, was unacceptable. Unacceptable. Obviously, if you're here, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I appreciate y'all being here. Like I said, this is the first post-game show of the regular season. I did a lot of post-games during spring training, but I cannot sit here and watch a game like that and simply not give my thoughts and opinions on it. So it's April 4th. We got another game to play here soon. We'll be tuning into that as much as I don't even want to, because this loss just left a sour taste in my mouth. But like I said, I appreciate y'all being here. Drop your thoughts in the live chat. We got a lot of discussions to have here. Going to try to make it a quick one, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. And let's just go about it that way. Here is your synopsis of this loss. Mets go down 6-3 in extra innings. 11 innings is the total count for the game. You can see here on the right-hand side of your screen, notable pitching or not so notable pitching. The Mets used 8 pitchers in total in this game. We got another game coming up, like I said. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But this was an absolutely unacceptable game on all accounts. And credit where credit's due. Adrian Houser went out there in his debut, absolutely threw a gem, left the Mets in a great position to win a ball game. 5 innings pitched, obviously got into some trouble there in the 6th inning. Brooks Raley came in, did a good job, sacrifice fly, everything was looking smooth. This game, like, what irks me about this game is that there's just so many points where I'm just like, all right, these guys are going to get out of it. Everything's okay. All we need is Edwin Diaz to come into the 9th inning, and we're good. First potential save opportunity for Edwin Diaz, and it's squandered. The offense got rolling early. I liked Francisco Alvarez setting the tone. Obviously, 2 RBI double there very early on into the game, and then they just kind of fell flat. They fell flat on their heels, and they let the Tigers claw, no pun intended, they let the Tigers claw their way back into the game. This is brutal. 0-5 start to the season. I'm not quite sure where the Mets go from here. Like I said, very early, but how many times are we going to say that it's very early on to the season without just seeing any sort of change? And the biggest thing that I saw from a game like this is a lack of situational awareness in terms of the offense, a lack of situational hitting. And I'm going to talk about some points. I'm going to talk about some of the points that I definitely didn't like later on to this game. Like I said, everything about this game from inning 1 to inning about 7, maybe 6, because Jake Diekman came in a little bit rough, Drew Smith a little bit rough after the first 2 outs. Everything up until Drew Smith gave up a single and a walk, everything before that point, I loved. And I was so confident. I was like, first win of the season. My hopes were high. I was like, we're starting the day off great. Very excited to play 2 today after 2 rainouts. And this is where we're at. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And I try to keep a positive mindset surrounding this team. I really do. I've been a proponent that this season is going to be a lot better than a lot of people have expected. And I understand. Listen, I'm not writing the Mets off. I'm not going to do that by any stretch of the imagination. But right now, the baseball that we're seeing objectively, I cannot tell you that the Mets are playing good baseball, because they're not. Before I get into any sort of other analysis of the game, because we're going to talk about 2 distinct moments of the game that I really think hindered the Mets. And one, I can tell you right now, is going to be that Brett Beatty bunt situation. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. Just want to get to the chat here. I know there's a lot of comments coming in. Like I said, guys, feel free to vent in the comment section. It's bad. This game is bad. This is something that I really was hoping to come onto this post-game live stream as I was doing the slides in game to talk about an electric win to set the tone for Jose Butto in the second start in the game coming up. But it's simply not happening. It didn't happen. And I just got to get this out of the way. Michael Tonkin, I was a proponent for Michael Tonkin all spring training. He had a great spring training, 0 earned runs in all of his collective outings in spring training. And and what does he do the first 2 games of this series in extra innings? The location was horrible. How many times are they going to call a fastball up in the zone to try to get a batter to swing underneath it, and Michael Tonkin's going to leave it middle? It happened on the opposite field hit that went and drove in the go-ahead run, and I believe it happened a couple more times on those broken bat singles. He did not locate his pitches whatsoever. And Adam Ottavino, same thing. Why is Adam Ottavino surprised that a ball that he left middle left the yard from Riley Green's bat? I mean, was anybody else surprised there? Because I sure wasn't. That ball was middle. And it's not like the Mets pitches were not competitive, right? In general, the pitching today, Adrian Houser, only 3 strikeouts in a day, only 67 pitches, but he got ground balls that he needed throughout the entire game. Listen, like I said, I have an absolute mouthful to say about this loss. I'm going to try to collect my thoughts here, but I want to get a vibe check. And I already know what the vibes are in the chat. I already know what their vibes are. But let's just see. I'm going to go through one by one, each comment, just to shout everybody out. Taking the time of day here. It's a weekday. We just witnessed a brutal Mets game, and I appreciate you all being here. Like I said, make sure to hit that thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel. We got another game coming up. The Mets play 2 today. You can't sit on this loss and dwell on it because that is going to directly affect the performance as a player in game 2. So as a fan, we can sit here and mope all day long. The players got to go back inside the dugout, change uniforms, and go back out there and play another one. And you hope they could take one because that would salvage a terrible day. That would salvage a terrible day. If the Mets go out and win game 2, I'll just say this right now because I'm going to talk about game 2 here in just a second. If the Mets go out there and win game 2, I might as well just leave game 1 in the rearview mirror. Obviously, you can't forget about the bad. You can't forget about the bad because that needs to get shored up and that needs to get fixed. But it would certainly change the complexion of the day. Shout out Mark Cruz. Disgrace from the hitters today. There's no excuse. Junior Swingman saying this team is dead. Jay saying Nimmo and Lindor batting average is .050. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Mason saying this is bad, like really bad. Darren is saying, why is Beatty bunting? John Rossi is saying, hit Beatty second and move Lindor down to the 7th spot. Yeah, guys, I know you guys are upset. I don't think we see any drastic changes from this lineup in game 2. I'll be surprised. Listen, I think that you have to put Francisco Alvarez back into this lineup as a DH. I know that he got substituted out there late in the game. It was a move that needed to be made, especially when you had a chance to win the ball game for a pinch runner in Zach Short, but you need that bat. Francisco Alvarez is off to a raging hot start on the season, and we absolutely needed that from Francisco Alvarez. So you got to have his bat in game 2, no matter what it is. He's not going to be catching. We all know he's not going to be catching. Unfortunately, we're going to have to see Omar Narvaez out there, but that bat needs to be in the lineup. So I expect him to be right back in that lineup. It's early on to this season. You can't give the guy the second day. You don't have any wins on the season. Carlos Mendoza cannot afford to have one of his only 3 bats that's actually hitting the baseball on the bench, potentially staring at 0-6. Oh, okay. Yeah, man. I got nothing to say about that. If you're in here saying some stupid stuff, you're getting banned. You're getting banned. So I don't tolerate that. Patty's saying there's no bullpen. Can Butto go 6 to 7 innings for game 2? Yeah, that's what I didn't like, man. That's what I didn't like. There was a spot in there where Jake Diekman obviously got out of a jam, striking out Spencer Torkelson after throwing a wild pitch and a pass ball, gave up a run there. But I thought that they should have definitely left Jake Diekman in. And shout out Carson from the Mets Weekly Pod saying the same thing on Twitter, that that move right there, it was very subtle. And I know that Adam Ottavino acts as your eighth inning guy, and that it was always going to be the classic route in the bullpen for game one, trying to secure the ball game. But I would have rather saw Jake Diekman get extended maybe for an out, maybe even two, depending on what he did. Obviously, if he walked the batter in the eighth inning, you pull the plug very early. But that was where I was just like, okay, a lot of pitchers being used so far. You got Rayleigh out of the game, Smith and Diekman. You could have got away maybe with an eighth inning of Diekman, extending him a little bit, because now you're going to be reeling for the bullpen. Do I think Jose Butto can go 6, maybe 7 innings? Yes, I do, because I'm expecting a lot from Jose Butto in this game. He's going to put his stamp on the game, because guess what? He's now fighting for a starting rotation spot as soon as Kodai Senga comes back, with Tyler McGill hitting the injured list, because he's trying to take Tyler McGill's job. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I'll talk about that here in just a second. But yeah, insane. There's no good vibes in the chat. I understand that. This is what it comes down to. Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil are combined 3 of 55 this season. And the pitching has been holding it down for the New York Mets. Make no mistake about it. The starting pitching and the early bullpen guys, right? Everybody not named Michael Tonkin, essentially, and Adam Ottavino have been holding it down for the New York Mets offense. They started off on the right foot, like I just said. It was a great start to the game. And I finally was getting ready to come on here and just breathe a sigh of relief, saying everybody can stop worrying. We got a win under our belts. The guys probably can play looser in game 2 after a win, but simply it didn't happen. So a couple of things that changed this ball game, right? I think the Jake Diekman move and taking him out in the 8th inning definitely changed the complexion of the bullpen outlook. But nonetheless, Adam Ottavino, you bring him back on a 1-year deal. Obviously, he opted out of his deal. You bring him back to be that 8th inning guy, presumably. And he goes out there. I believe he gets a quick out, and then he gives up the game-tying home run. That simply cannot happen. That derailed all momentum in the game. But let's talk about the bigger aspect of this game and the bigger point of this game, which is when Brett Baty came up to bat and you got the winning run on second base in extra innings. First of all, before I even go there, let's go back a little bit to, I believe it was the 9th inning. Brandon Nimmo leads off with a walk, steals second. Francisco Lindor, this is what I'm talking about, situational hitting, because Pete Alonso did this a couple games ago. Everybody's a culprit. This is not just Lindor. Everybody's a culprit of lack of situational awareness. Nimmo finally, for the first time, and it seems like ages, is able to successfully steal a base in the bottom of the 9th inning, winning run on second base. Lindor's in a 2-2 count. You got to move the runner over. You cannot take a strikeout there. I understand it's a hard thing to do when runners are stealing on pitches that you're supposed to be hitting, but Nimmo got successfully to second base, and it just derailed the entire opportunity when Lindor struck out in that situation. Now, like I said, this is not just Lindor that has failed situationally on this team. McNeil's done it very early into the season. Pete Alonso did it a couple games ago. Lindor happened to do it in the 9th inning. In the very next inning, Brett Baty, say what you want about the bunt situation. Say what you want about Brett Baty not getting the bunt down. I quite simply can't fathom in my head why Brett Baty is bunting in that situation. I seriously don't understand it. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to caveat this by saying, usually I am a big proponent of bunting in situations where you are able to win a ball game with less than 2 outs, potentially moving a runner definitely into scoring position, but also to third base. I usually am the biggest proponent of that. But this is not a situation. That was not a situation that calls for a bunt from Brett Baty. One, because Brett Baty's already swinging a hot bat. He's been putting competent at-bats together. We said it in the pregame show today. Brett Baty looks great out there, not only defensively, because he made numerous great defensive plays as well, so shout out to him in that manner, but offensively, he had an opposite field, I believe single or double for an RBI to score the Mets' 3rd one of the game, and he's swinging a hot bat. And what is Brett Baty known for? Even when he's struggling, he's known for ground balls. especially to the pull side. And what did the Mets need in that situation? A ground ball to the pull side to get the runner over. But instead, you call a bunt. Very first pitch of that bat. Okay, he doesn't get it. At that point, I'm not sure if this is coming from the manager or this is coming from Brett Baty himself. I would have to imagine this is coming from Carlos Mendoza. You got to pull the bunt sign off of Brett Baty. You got to pull the bunt. Like, you tried it one time. More power to you. Okay, failed. You got to pull the bunt sign from Brett Baty because it's a different at-bat 0-2. You got to give him at least 2 swings for a fighting chance to put the ball in play. And that was the turning point of the game in the extra innings that I was just like, okay, the Mets have a real shot at losing this ball game now. That was the turning point for me. So that is something where I really wish that it would have played out differently. I would have wished that Brett Baty would have had a chance to swing the bat there. Failed 2 times. I get it. This is Major League Baseball. You're supposed to put a bunt down, and you have to be able to know how to bunt a baseball at the Major League level. But I think that the sign shouldn't have been there. For once on 0-0. But secondly, it shouldn't have been there back-to-back pitches. So that was a tough call for me. That was a tough call. I seriously do not like that call. Mets failed to get the runners in, and Michael Tonkin comes in, gets actually a quick out, which I was very surprised at as well. Brett Baty, like I said, holding it down at third base. Great plays there from Brett Baty. But Michael Tonkin just cannot locate a pitch to save his life right now. There's simply no other way to put it. There's no other way to put it. So I'm frustrated, man. I'm frustrated. As you can tell, this is not the sort of vibe that I intended to come out here with, but I got to call a spade at this point. We have to be realistic about where this team's at. That's a deflating loss. We talked about the first game of the Tigers series potentially being a must-win game for this team after going down swept against the Milwaukee Brewers. If there was any situation where there was a must-win game, it was game 1 of the doubleheader today. And I appreciate you, Junior. Say it louder, CP. Yeah, I think there are a select few people who I've talked to and who I know are still going to agree with the bunt sign. But I simply cannot fathom asking Brett Baty, who I can't even remember the last time Brett Baty has successfully put a bunt down. I can't fathom asking him to put a bunt down in that situation. I just can't. I just can't. So, yeah, I got no idea where to go from here. It's a culmination of a lot of things. Bad situational baseball. That just really irked me. That really irked me. But like I said, shout out to Francisco Alvarez. Shout out to Pete Alonso. 2 for 4, 2 for 5, respectively. Pete Alonso is hitting the baseball very hard. He's hitting the baseball very hard, and I like to see that. He's not getting many pitches to hit. He's using all fields, single up the middle, single to the right side. I like what I see from Pete Alonso. I like the approach, but this is getting tough to talk about, and it's only 5 games in. So let's get back into some of the chat here. Pastor Steve is saying, at this time, I have more faith in Alvarez, Baty, and Marte than I do Nimmo, Lindor, and McNeil. And yeah, it's just been one of those sort of stretches right now for those guys. And Jeff McNeil looks as bad as ever at the plate. I mean, at first, hitting the ball in the air. Now he's rolling over the ball. He can't find that happy medium of the Jeff McNeil that we all know and that we all love as a 300 hitter. He can't find that happy medium very early into this season. So, like I said, I understand this stream is sounding like it's doom and gloom. It's sounding very negative because honestly, there was really not many positives out of that game toward the tail end there. I can sit here and talk about how beautiful of a start Adrian Houser had, how clutch of a relief appearance Brooks Raley had. You know what? I am going to point out some more positives because in addition to Pete Alonso, Francisco Alvarez, and Brett Baty getting a couple hits in this ball game, Jorge Lopez came in extra innings And he had one of the best outings of a Mets reliever this season, especially in a situation where you get a free ghost runner on second base if you're the Detroit Tigers. Jorge Lopez, shout out to him. I seriously think the Mets ought to consider Jorge Lopez in higher leverage situations. And I thought that if you're going to use Jorge Lopez in higher leverage situations, probably I was thinking maybe 20, 30 games in, obviously coming off of a down 2023 season. But if Adam Ottavino doesn't find his foothold, obviously struggled first outing, second outing here, gives it the game time home run. You have to utilize Jorge Lopez in a different way moving forward because this bullpen cannot afford to have Adam Ottavino do that in the eighth inning consistently. It just can't. So shout out to Jorge Lopez. Shout out to Brooks Raley. And shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody that came in relief and did a good job. So we do have game 2 coming up. Like I said, it's going to be a short stream. I can go on and on and on about this game, but we do have game 2 coming up. Game 3 of the series coming up. Jose Butto versus Matt Manning. Jose Butto is looking to make a very strong case for why he should be in this rotation moving forward, especially with the likes of Julio Teheran coming in, filling in for an injured Tyler McGill. But like I said in the pregame stream, Tyler McGill is not a surefire, answer to come back into this rotation when the Mets move to a 6-man rotation once Kodai Senga comes back off the injury list. He's not. So Jose Butto is going to need to give the Mets length today. And Matt Manning, for an offense that's already struggling with the New York Mets, Matt Manning is not a tall feat here in game 2. We saw him in spring training, heavy slider curveball combination for the off speed. And he's posted a mid-3 ERA last year in 2023. He's a solid pitcher. So the Mets bats better be ready to come out swinging, or it's going to be a long day. Like I said, Matt Manning versus Jose Butto. Jose Butto needs to have a good game. I'm fully expecting him to. He had a hell of a spring training. Thought that he definitely deserved a spot on the open day roster come regular season. Didn't happen. Obviously had the option left available. It's must win. It's must win game after must win game. So you can't have an 0-6 start to the season. Game 3 coming up here soon. I'm not exactly sure how long this break is going to be for the New York Mets, but like I said, there's definitely some positives to build off of game 1. Adrian Houser, some of the offense definitely showed up early, but how do the Mets close out ball games from here on out? That's been the Mets' Achilles heel. It was the Achilles heel in game 1 of the Tigers series, and it was Achilles heel in game 2, like we just saw here. So game 2 starting up soon. Obviously, we'll keep tabs on it. Mets Roundtable podcast. I believe I'll be able to hop on tonight at 8 p.m. We'll be doing a little bit of a day review from game 1 and game 2, giving our thoughts. Some new Roundtable members joining the podcast. Like I said, wanted to hop up here for about 24, 25 minutes talking about this team. And like I said, I know that it's bleak. I know that we're down as a fan base, but we do have one more game. And I hear you, everybody in the chat. Yeah, there you go. It'd be saying game starts in 20 minutes. Not much break in between. So want to get to some people in the chat here. Ricardo's saying he's a big home run waiting to happen. Ottavino's I don't know, man. I don't know how to analyze Adam Ottavino and Michael Tonkin right now. Like I said, my brain is like a whirlwind right now. I hopped on here, try to do the stream. That just took the life out of me. And I'm not gonna lie to you. That took the life out of me. It's tough. It's tough to come on here and talk about this team after a game like that. But CP, it's called the reactions, brother. This is how us fans feel. Yeah, man, Daniel. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is like an instant reaction. If you see me fumbling over my words, like I said, it's just because I literally don't know. I have so many thoughts running into my head that I don't know what to say next. So it's just a whirlwind of emotions. Like I said, it's game 5 at the end of the day. You got a whole 155 games left. Or 157 games left, and it's a 162 game season. That's all I can say right now. That's all I can say. Continue to build off the positives and learn how to close out ball games, because that's what has hindered the Mets right now. So shout out to you, Carlos, as well. Salute to you. I appreciate all you Mets fans coming here, chiming in. Definitely want to run through a little bit more comments here before I end the stream. Like I said, I know that it's this I'm still staying positive, boys. Sorry, I'm 43 and have seen everything. It's still early. It is still early. That is the silver lining here. It's still early, Jay. I agree with you. And like I said, I have to call a spade with how bad this game was and how much the Mets squandered this game. But nonetheless, like I said, the players can't dwell on it. And us fans at this point really shouldn't dwell on it. We have another game to watch here soon, and that is what it is. So I know I'm a broken record. That's all I can say at this moment. And it's going to be a long season, Ricardo says. So he says buckle up. But I see Julio saying, for me, it's not that they're 0-5. It's that they haven't recovered since the loss to Division 22. Yeah, that's a valid point. I think there's a lot of circumstances to go into that comment. There's a lot of reasons for why this team hasn't performed, obviously, last year and this year, obviously, to start off the season. Like I said, keep an eye out on JD Martinez coming up. That should transform the lineup in a great way. Maybe some of those situational spots in the middle of the lineup that come later on in the game, right, that we just witnessed, maybe they change and that dynamic changes with JD Martinez, who's a great situational hitter. Same thing with G-Man Choi if he gets brought up in place of DJ Stewart, who also went 0 for today. That changes. So there's a lot of things that can happen between now and when those guys come up that can transform this lineup. And I don't expect these extended slumps for Nimmo and Lindor. I simply don't expect it. Like, they are going to come into their own. It's still early on from a hitting aspect, but it's just frustrating when you see the end result of being 0-5. But like Jay's saying, you got to keep positive because there's really no use on dwelling on these losses, to be honest with you. No Alvy in the lineup. That's surprising. That's surprising. I don't have the lineup in front of me right now, but no Alvy is surprising. Wow. That's bad. Narvaez, Bader, and Wendell on the back end of the Game 2 lineup. That's not good, man. I don't like to see that. I simply I can't fathom why Alvarez is not in Game 2. You can't afford to get swept on a doubleheader going to Cincinnati. Listen, the Mets are playing 15 games in 14 days. This is a tough stretch. And I understand you don't want to put pressure on your starting catcher. You don't want to put a toll on him early on to the season, but he's literally one of your 3 best bats in the lineup right now on an already struggling offense. I haven't taken a look at the lineup yet. I'm going to do so after this stream. So, like I said, you hear it from Ibby here. Narvaez, Bader, and Wendell, not a great outlook. Let's see if the Mets can salvage this doubleheader and at least DH him. That's exactly my thoughts too, Ibby. At least DH him at the very minimum. So, like I said, let's see if the Mets decide to salvage Game 2. Game 1, brutal. These are my instant reactions. Like I said, I know this is just a rant. This is me ranting about this team. But as always, I appreciate y'all being in the chat. Thank you for being here with me, navigating these tough times as a fan base together. I appreciate it. I appreciate the community. And as always, like I said, every stream, it's Let's Go Mets. Hit that thumbs up, guys. Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk post-game live stream. We will be back with the roundtable. These are your updated NLE standings if anyone cares at this point into the season. Like I said, it's way too early to standings to sort of watch the standings, but there it is, 0-5 and 0-7 at the bottom of the division. It's ugly, and let's see if things turn around. Thank you all for watching the True Mets Talk post-game live stream. We will see you all tonight after Game 2. Let's hope for the best and hope for a win. Peace.
Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk podcast. Make sure you're tapping on that notifications button and checking out all the latest content on the channel. Thank you.